Hi, my name is Raphael Heath, the Head of Geography at the Royal High School Bath, and this is sixth in a series of tutorials about how to do various things relating to the data we've collected as part of the Geography World Record Event 2014. Today I'm talking about using web apps to examine some of the data which can potentially simplify examining the data for students. This is the normal ArcGIS online platform and screen with all the functionalities. This is for a subscriber and all the sort of things you can do. You can see here I've created a reasonably kind of complex map with lots and lots of information layers in. We can see data, so I've got it showing quality of life data at the moment from the world record attempt, and I've color coded it in this case for overall quality of life. I can change it for another factor like personal safety at night and so on. Now when you're creating maps here within ArcGIS Online, you have the ability to save your maps and share them, and in this particular screen on the share screen here you can see that you've got choices of who to share with, and you can also do this thing called make a web application. And the various types of web apps you can make, there's certain preset ones that you can see here that you can play around with that can be quite useful, but I was working on this one, a web app builder, which is in beta mode at the moment, and I won't go through the details of this now, but you would save the name of the web app and description and get started. But I just wanted to show you one I've done it earlier just to see the effects of it more than how to make it at this stage. So here's a completed web app using the same map information, and this is using the web app builder, so I have quite a lot of control over what I've included here. So I've included various things in this top menu row. So I've got a drawing tool here which allows people using this web app to draw onto the map with different shapes, or write onto the map and so on, which is quite useful if they want to annotate information. Show measurements, I'll show you an example. So you can draw a circle or something like that, and it can even give you information about it like dimensions and so on. So that's useful for people annotating maps. If I zoom in a little bit here to a particular area, let's zoom into London. Okay, I've used just quite a plain grey background so we can really bring out the data on top of the map rather than the views by the map detail underneath, but I've put in a base map gallery which allows people to change the background image of the map if they wish to other types of views. So depending on what you want to do and what you want to achieve, you can change the map background. But I'll keep it as a grey map for the moment. And then I've put in a layers list here, so this is all the layers that I had before, which I can switch on and off, and the legend as well. So at the moment I've got it showing overall quality of life scores, and you can zoom to anywhere in the world and display the data this way. If I change it instead of that one to personal safety at night, then you can see that this now brings up the information and shows me the variations for responses to people's responses about their views about safety at night. I can see here that perhaps within the London region and in a London region there's maybe greater concern over safety at night than some of the surrounding edge areas in London, and so on. So I can very quickly and easily see some of these patterns. So this web app is something I'm going to make publicly available and share with everyone. So this is potentially a quick way of just sharing information with students, getting them to look and analyse the data. So I've got peacefulness there, air quality as well, I'll just bring that one up, and so on. So the beauty of this is it's just quick and easy, it's pre-done. Obviously you don't have, the students don't have control over changing the settings on this, but if you want something that's pre-done, that's quite good and easy way of sharing with students. So that's the basics here. I've also put in a few other layers here at the bottom. It's difficult to know what to share for what people want, so there's quite a lot in here. But as you can see, you can turn any of these layers on and off one by one. And then I've got also some multiple deprivation layers here. So if I find the one for London, if I switch that one on, you can see here that this is a layer that's been shared by the Esri UK education team, and it has a colour coding behind it for the deprivation data for London. The key on this is let's expand it down here, is 1 represents the most deprived wards in the UK, and 32,000 the least deprived wards. or the most prosperous. So this is just for overall multiple deprivation, which is obviously a whole basket of deprivation variables which is combined. And if I can zoom in, you can see obviously that information in more detail. If I click on a particular area, then we actually get all the detail for it, the sub-data for it. So these are rankings, these numbers, but you can see how the basic principle works for comparing these areas. So that's another powerful tool. Again, as you can see within here, you can't change the displays of the maps to show anything else. It's showing overall multiple deprivation, so you can't actually change it for another factor, which you could do if you were in the original map here in Arcgis Online Viewer. But here you gain the simplicity of the map. So I can, as you can see, look at the data. Let's say this is, I don't know, fear of crime was it or something, and air pollution, and compare it to deprivation data. I've also put in a few other layers. I've got some information that I've got on UK unemployment from Arcgis Online, and population without qualifications and so on. So if I click this one on UK unemployment, just be aware this particular layer I can't only view it at a certain distance, so I have to zoom in to a certain scale. You can see it's displaying now. If I zoom in further, it disappears again. It's a little bit awkward that, but that's all I can do, unfortunately, with the way it's set up, because this layer has a certain range it works within. So if I want to see more of it, it goes for the whole country, which is the benefit of it, but I need to sort of move around at that right zoom scale, so you'd have to explain that to students, otherwise the layer's going to disappear, and this is a percentage unemployment for different areas. So again, that's going to be useful to compare to the quality of life responses. But if I zoom out too far, as you can see, and I switch this layer on, it won't reappear. I have to zoom in again a little bit further than that for it to start coming on. And that works for the last three layers. They will work in the same way. Again, if I was on Arcgis Online, then I can actually change the settings for that particular layer. So as you can see, it's trying to show the whole of the UK. Clearly it can't cope with that much, showing that much data, so it hasn't displayed properly, which is part of the reason, but I can certainly zoom into places and show a lot more than I would have done if so that's pretty complete, as you can see, but I couldn't do that on the other map, and that's because here I've actually set the visibility range. I've cleared the constraints on the visibility range. Anyway, that's again some of the differences between using it within the Arcgis Online platform viewer and within a preset web app. But as you can see, the preset web app is pretty clear and neat and easy for students to use in many ways. So that's how you can show data, the regional data, the different layers for, as I showed you, the actual responses by students, and also some secondary data layers for the UK. That's useful for UK schools. I haven't done this for every part of the world, but focusing on UK schools particularly with using this platform. I'll put a couple of other tools here which are quite nice and useful as well. I've got a query tool here, and I've set it up so you can actually use this to query certain information. So just double check what I'm showing at the moment. I'm showing the cleanliness of air, okay, and how the scores work for that. So if I go to a query tool here, I could query the same thing, but I could also query something else. I might say, well, cleanliness of air might relate to how peaceful an area is, because noise and peacefulness might link to air quality. So I can then actually set the values I want. It's 7 to 10 I've put in here by default, but let's say I want to look at the lower peacefulness, the noisier areas in other words, and I can use a spatial filter, so I could do this for the whole map extent, or maybe just part of an area. I'll do it for part of an area just to demonstrate the idea. I can draw a freehand symbol around here and apply. And just for that area now, what it's done is it's put flags for any of the areas that have got a what do I analyse here? A peacefulness rating of 4 or below, and I can see if that to some extent visually corresponds to the areas where there's also clusters of poor air quality, which I've been looking at here. So again, it's another way of either just looking at the data in itself for particular numbers, particular results, to flag up and look for any patterns, or to actually maybe compare two factors as well, potentially, as to some extent in here. You can see that I put all the different values that you can actually analyse here. So you could look at any of these medical facilities, let's say, and you could put any range of numbers you wish in. You can do it for the whole map extent, the whole world if you wish, or for a particular area that you want to compare. So this is quite useful if you were going to, let's say, I don't know, say look at these medical facilities one. If I wanted to look at how this area, let's say in central London, compared for medical facilities, and this is score 7 to 10, so I can see how many places kind of score well on medical facilities there, and maybe make a comparison to another area, let's say an area on the edge of London or something, and make some comparisons. And obviously this can be done at a country level as well, so apply that, analyse that area, and I can see if there's many differences. Seem to be about the same views and feelings over there in terms of rough numbers, but you can see in principle that kind of analysis can be done. And let's just do the apply as well. Just do that one more time, put in a new shape. And what's nice here as well is I can see the number of results that scored that as well. So if I was using that to compare different areas as well, or for different values, I can very quickly get totals for different areas and how they scored for different features. And the beauty is I can do this at a sort of national level, at compared countries and so on. So it's quite a powerful tool, works quite quickly. And the other tool I've got here, apart from the querying tool, that I think is potentially even more useful, is this graphing tool. And so this allows you, just one more thing about query tool. Just wanted to show you that some schools might like this. They might want to look at results just for their school. So again, you can type in words that refer to your school. So if I put in mine, Royal High, some students might have written Royal High School, the Royal High School, Bath, and so on. But Royal High should cover that unless they spelt it wrong. Some might have written RHSB or RHS. So if I do an apply there, then I can see 169. This shows me the number of students that responded that are from my school, unless any other schools in the world have come up with the criteria I've just set there. So some you can see there RHSB, some Royal High School and so on. I can see the results from my students, so that's quite a nice way if you wanted to see where your students responded, how many students responded from your school and so on. So that's a nice little tool within the query option as well. Okay, I'll get rid of those queries. So the other tool I wanted to talk about is the graphing tool. Might actually zoom out for this, do it at a slightly larger scale. So yeah, this graphing tool here that you put in, I've got graphs to show the average scores for an area. So again, you can select an area, spatial filter, using either the map extend or areas you draw. So let's say I want to say, I don't know, how does Bath score in Bath Southwest region? I'll just do a crude shape around there. So now what it's going to do is going to look at all the data in that region, and it's going to give me the average scores. I can see in the area I've drawn, which includes the Bristol region and Bath, I can see the average quality of life overall is scored as 9, the concern about climate change is 4, very mixed, and so on, medical facility, safety and so on. Note that safety one, 7.5 for example. Let's compare that to another area. So if I move to somewhere different like London here, and I do a similar kind of area that I can pick. I can do this in different shapes. I can do some more uniform areas if I wanted circles and so on, depending on how I want to draw these shapes. Let's draw a shape over here, and apply. So now the scores come up for average for that particular grouping, and you can see the overall score there. But interesting, look at that safety score for that area. This is London compared to Bristol Bath, for example. We see quite a lot lower average safety score. So what we're doing here is we're taking, in this case, maybe hundreds of results and creating an average for them, because any individual result obviously has lots of personal factors in, but if you start getting large data sets and getting averages, that becomes quite useful. I can see it's not very peaceful here. I can see that people don't think the air quality is very good. And again, if I just go back to another part of the UK and see if there's any sort of differences here in quality of life, perceptions of quality of life. Again, let me just move that across a bit. I'll look at this area again, the area around Bath, apply that data, and I get the averages for there. And again, you can see these scores for peacefulness are much higher, the scores for air quality are much higher, and so on, safety is higher. So again, very quickly you can see that there are differences in averages, and one of the problems with this world record data is just how much data there is and how variable it is, and it's quite hard to cope with. So this sort of tool where students can get their heads around the idea of creating massive, looking at regions and areas of interest to them, and getting averages is going to be a very useful and powerful way of analysing this data. And of course the beauty of this again is that it can be done for whole countries, so we can do a shape around the whole of the UK, for example, and compare it to other parts of the world, USA or wherever, and again get overall scores based on that. So I'll just try one very quickly. Just draw a very much larger shape, you get the principle of it, and apply that. And again, you see how quickly it did that. It's a very large amount of data there, and see there's something several sort of hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 dots there, and we can see what the average scores are here for the UK at the moment. So that's the basic principle of these web app tools, and I hope you found that useful. Just very quickly, going back to this map, as I said, if you're working within Arcgis Online, you can clearly change a lot more, manipulate a lot more, and have a lot more control over it, but it is a little bit hard to use perhaps for your students. But if you do want to make your own web apps, then it's going under that share button and make web applications. But the one I've just shown you I will share publicly on the Twitter site and on the website. So I'll add this to the GIS record 2014.jimdo.com website as a link as well on the homepage, so you can all easily access this and hopefully find this a useful tool. Thanks very much. I hope they find that useful introduction to the idea of using web apps, and hopefully that'll help you and your students be able to access and examine quite a complex and large data set that the world record data has produced. Actually, just one other thing I remember on this while I mention it is using filters. I talked about using queries here, which is filters of sorts in the web app, but within Arcgis Online, in order to clean up some of the data, because there may have been typing errors or deliberate mistakes in the way people have entered data, for example, they might say quality of life was 9 million or whatever, then you can actually use a filter here. And so if you look, filter by date, but also this filter here, I'll just put it in at the bottom, filter there, and you can see that I've actually set the filter to only show records that have a score of 1 to 10. So again, that's a way of trying to get rid of some of the data that might be erroneous, which means that the color coding and displays worked correctly on here. So when you're using the web app, that's automatically set for you, and means that only correct and data, at least within the right number range, is being shown. Okay, thanks for watching this tutorial. I hope you found it useful as a way of getting your head around Arcgis Online and web app comparisons, and also particularly how to use the particular web app for this world record event that hopefully you and your students will find useful. I'm Raphael Heath, the Head of Geography at Royal High School Bath. Thanks for watching and taking part in the world record event as well.